You are listening to Arcane Carolinas, an exploration of the Carolinas' folklore, legends, myths, and modern weird. Each episode, we examine the historical context of our topic and aim to preserve some of the stories that help make this part of the world such a fascinating place.
Hey y'all, Michael here. Welcome to Spooky Season for 2023. Before this episode gets started, I wanted to jump in and remind you we'll be at Arcane in Durham, North Carolina on Thursday, September 28th at 8 p.m. We'll record a live episode, do a Q&A, hand out swag, and hang out with folks. We hope to see you there. Also, Arcane Carolinas Volume 1 is out now, collecting Charlie's research, notes, and reflections from a bunch of stories we've covered over time. There's a link in the show notes to this episode, so check it out. And now, on with the show.
All right, well, it's recording.
Excellent.
It's 3:02. We have stolen 2 minutes.
Yes.
All right. Welcome to Arcane Carolinas Live at Carolina Fear Fest. I'm your co-host, Charlie Mushaw.
And I am your other co-host, and it continues to be strange to say this while looking at people who are not Charlie, multi-award-winning novelist Michael G. Williams. Somewhere in the back of my head, my mother's going, don't be proud.
You're being a little braggy.
Yeah, you know.
By a show of hands, who knows what Arcane Carolinas is? I feel like I've explained it a lot this weekend. Okay.
Who learned it from Charlie this weekend? Okay. That's a pretty sizable chunk.
So, for those that did not raise your hands, I'm going to explain it. To those of you that did raise your hands, I'm sorry. Arcane Carolinas is a podcast about weird, off-the-beaten-path stories from the Carolinas, folklore, hidden history, everything from UFOs to Bigfoot to ghosts to just weird stuff.
I was telling somebody at the table earlier, we've done everything from Bigfoot in the mountains to UFOs at Myrtle Beach.
And a blob and a pipe in Cameron Village in between.
And the continued existence of Carrie.
Somebody asked me at the table earlier, what's your favorite one that's just weird and fun? And I'm like, The Blob. I really like it.
Really? That's your fave? I mean, it's a great one.
But then I told somebody else something different when they were like, what's your favorite one that's local to where you live? And I was like, oh, the Chatham County Hole. There's so many different types of stories in the Carolinas across such a wide swath of geography that it's so hard to pick a favorite. When we do these live ones, something that we try to do is take the smaller stories that might not fill an hour and do a grab bag. So today, we're doing...
Also, for people who do not know our deal, one of us does all the research and one of us comes in totally blind. And today I am totally blind. I have no idea what we're about to talk about.
And he does laugh at me while I'm talking like that when we record normally when I start getting excited.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay, he's all ripped up. He's going. I am.
Also, I'm just going to note it's trivially easy for me to pick a favorite story, but I'm not going to say which one it is.
See, I can't because
it's The Vampire Beast of Bladenborough.
Yeah, you do like that one.
I do. I remember the book I was reading it in the first time I read it in 8th grade in my junior high library.
No, it's good.
Okay.
I'm not judging. These mics are really hot. I did not expect that to pick up at that moment. Anyway, we take these smaller stories and we make a grab bag. And today, we're doing a revisit of a series that we started last year at a convention where I love talking about satanic panic related stories. So, today's topic, I think, in the program is Satanic Panic Strikes Back.
Oh, okay, great.
Because a year later, I'm doing another one.
Yeah.
I'm back, baby.
I love satanic panic stories, so...
Satanic panic is a part of every well-adjusted child's upbringing, right?
And also mine.
So, you always hear about, oh, you're not supposed to go there, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to watch that, you're not supposed to listen to this. I was told in 2nd grade that I was going to hell for singing We Built the City on Rock and Roll.
Wow.
Right here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
We've discussed, I was raised in a household where my mother loved horror because she believed it reinforced the story of supernatural doom that she wanted to make sure was inculcated in us at church. Mm-hmm. And thus, the miniseries of It was the last pop culture moment my mother and I shared.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we diverged rapidly after that.
I woke up sobbing that night. I don't want to go to hell.
Oh.
Who does that? Everyone in the 80s is the answer. Everyone in the 80s.
Everyone in my family, everyone in the 80s, yeah.
But it kept going.
Mm-hmm.
And in middle school, I was told by a different teacher at a different school that Batman comics could turn you into a devil-worshipping serial killer. That really happened. Thanks, Debbie. I won't say her last name.
What? Is there like a logical path there?
In her mind.
Okay.
So.
I mean, did she expound upon
Yes.
this? Okay.
Yes. You are familiar with the term Detective Comics?
Yes.
For Batman?
And DC.
Yes. Well, there's a clown honk. There's a lot of clowns here, and I find it very unsettling.
I am somebody who is deeply bothered by clowns and have been since childhood. And yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's a lot of clownage. The clown to non-clown ratio is higher than I like. The clown, it's like the humidity rating for a day.
Neither number is 0, and thus it's bad.
The logical jump was, I guess, someone had put in this lady's head that I think it was Ted Bundy, like detective stories, like pulp novels, right? So she saw a comic book and was just like that, pitched a fit, not in those noises, but in actual words.
Are you sure that's not a direct quote?
It might as well have been. Yeah. Anyway, fortunately, I was supported at home and was assured that I would not become a devil-worshipping serial killer because I liked Batman.
Yeah.
That clown is...
I just really hope the mics end up catching it because it's really funny. And if it doesn't, then we are going to need a Foley artist.
Maybe he'll just like dub it in. So anyway, look at us now, chuckling it up at Carolina Fear Fest so many years later, laughing about how angry people could get and how everything could be labeled as evil. And one of the things we like to do is look at instances where things are named a little over the top.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So today's first story comes from Rockingham County, North Carolina. It is a county that sits on the Virginia border. Are you familiar?
Yes.
Okay. A bit of dialectical trivia. The 2014 book, Talkin' Tar Heel, How Our Voices Tell the Story of North Carolina, says that folks in this area pronounce the words out and about as oat and a boat.
Okay.
I did not know that. Now you learned something. See, Arcane Carolinas is not all about making fun of middle school teachers. Also, it's the home of Satan's Bridge. A bridge so evil that no one may cross it without falling into madness.
Really?
Built of sulfuric stone mined by goblins in the depths of the hidden mines of an abyssal inferno. Held together by mortar made from the ground-up bones of the damned. Located conveniently over a creek so that the Prince of Darkness can keep his hooven feet dry whilst traveling from North Carolina into Virginia and back.
A, I legit love that.
I made all that up. That's not the legend.
Okay. I was going to say, B,
that's why I had to like really look at the paper on that one.
I've read some state contracts, and I don't know, maybe that's believable.
Yeah, I mean, if it came in a little cheaper than the competitor.
Yeah. They do call us the Good Road State.
So, the Berry Hill Bridge, a.k.a. Satan's Bridge, is an exceptionally rural area. Thick vegetation, sparsely populated, 2 lanes wide, runs over the Dan River, covered in graffiti. You can Google Maps it. It's kind of cool. Like, I'm driving across Satan's Bridge in virtual reality.
Yeah.
There's a persistent legend about the location that around the time of the Great Depression, there was an old woman who lived close to nearby train tracks, now no longer in use.
Sure.
The rail line has been shut down. And one night, she was walking up the railroad tracks when she was hit and decapitated by a train.
Yowza.
Since then, it's said that she wanders the tracks near the bridge on moonless, fog-filled nights carrying a lantern in search of her head, and that you can see the light from the bridge.
So this is one of my favorite genres, I guess I should say, of legends.
Railroad decapitations.
Railroad decapitation, wandering lights. Yes.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about a bunch of those because every town has one. I love it.
I prefer the remake. Possibly related, a glowing green lady in a boat is also said to appear upriver and floats downriver. And when she hits the bridge, she disappears. Like when she goes to go under it, just the specter disappears.
A floating ghost boat lady is totally new. I love it.
Yeah, floating ghost boat lady.
Yeah.
And there are numerous accounts online, like repeated and repeated and repeated. that people have killed themselves on the bridge, and that it is haunted by their spirits, and that's where the bad vibes and the ghosts come from, not the Great Depression lady. In more contemporary times, it said that Satanists would gather in the middle of the night, emerging from the woods in dark cloaks, to hang animals that they would sacrifice under the bridge. That's where the name Satan's Bridge comes from.
Oof.
So all of these stories have culminated with it being known as a spooky place.
Man, that's fair enough.
Satan's Bridge.
I feel like Satan's Bridge is just like a really hard hand of bridge, where you're just like, what do I bid? Kind of screwed no matter what.
So this is the part of the episode where we talk about history. The Berry Hill Bridge has a lot of disjointed legends, and some are pretty bunk, but some are interesting. And there is something that I think fuels this reputation that we're going to get to. The train track in the story is a little odd in that satellite imagery doesn't show any tracks nearby. But I understand that things can get overgrown, so I'm not totally willing to write that off.
Yeah, when we think about things like the Mako light, one of the things we discovered in the course of that was the train tracks are long gone and, in fact, are almost unfindable and innavigable now.
The thing I don't like about the train track story is there's no concrete pylons in the river. And a lot of times when you see old tracks, yeah, they might get overgrown, but there's still a concrete pylon in the river. The Haw River is a perfect example of that in Chatham County. I feel like I've talked about Chatham County all weekend long. I'm sorry if you've heard me talk about that.
Welcome to Chatham Fear Fest.
Yes. Some people are like, oh, so you're local, right? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, in Raleigh? I'm like, no, Chatham County. I couldn't find a single story about suicides other than it being repeated in blogs. So saying that a lot of people killed themselves there feels like a bit of a stretch. But what I did find, and where I think a lot of this reputation comes from, follow me now.
Yeah.
I found a newspaper article from 1992 about police continuing to seek leads from the public, offering renewed rewards about a very grisly 1985 discovery at the bridge. So years later.
So something legit happened there.
Nearby Danville resident, because it's Danville on one side of the bridge. Adrian Troy Wilson was found burnt up in a car.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, it got ruled as a homicide because my first thought was spontaneous human combustion.
Well, yeah, exactly. That is like literally the first place I went because we did an episode
on spontaneous human combustion.
Yeah, with a dude in a car.
I'm pretty sure that guy blew up. I don't think this guy blew up, though.
Okay.
I mean, if the police said, oh, it's a homicide, there's probably details that didn't go into the article.
Sure, yeah. If television has taught me anything, then it's that. And I'm a writer, so that's really all I need. You just need like the thinnest layer of research, just the thinnest veneer. But if television has taught me anything, then if there's an actual suspicion of homicide, then they're going to withhold details so that they can use those details as a way to confirm a suspect later.
That's pretty much where I'm at with it as well.
Okay.
But let's think about the date on this. 1985, rural area, satanic panics in full effect. I could very easily see this getting twisted.
Oh, yeah.
And being like, oh, the people in the woods did it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop myself right there and wait until you're done.
No, go ahead.
I was about to dive into a what if. I was about to dive into a what if, and that could be lengthy.
Okay. That's pretty much it.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm going to dive into my what if. So if I were going to use this in a book, here's what I would do. This is a fairly remote rural place, and it's the 1980s, and there's a lot of satanic panic around, like you said. I would say party A, let's call him Joe Bob. Joe Bob finds out that his girlfriend has spent time with Jimbo over there. And so what do you do?
A lot of JB names here.
A lot of JB names. And what do? You get Jimbo and you get him in a car. You tell him to meet him on the bridge. You're going to talk it out.
Yep.
And then you kill him. You set the car on fire.
It'll destroy all the evidence.
It'll destroy all the evidence. And then it doesn't. And the next day somebody finds it. And then you've got a weird, over-the-top Coen Brothers kind of thriller thing going where the dude who did it tells everybody, well, it's them Satanists in the woods.
No, that's exactly right. No, I'm saying. I buy that.
Yeah.
That's immediately where my mind went.
Yeah, totally.
On a much, much lighter note, chemical company Knoxcrete did a very tongue-in-cheek demo of their paint removal product Tag-X on the heavily spray-painted bridge and posted it online.
Oh my God.
The title, Tag-X takes on Satan's Bridge. You can go to their site and they have a whole demo about it. It's really impressive. It's a really, if you ever need graffiti removed, I highly recommend TagX, because if it can tackle the infernal graffiti of Satan's Bridge, it can help you with your shed that the neighbor kid spray painted or whatever.
Got a devil of a job?
Anyway, Satan's Bridge, everybody. I'd like to take a minute for. Does that mic work? Does the audience mic work?
I think so. It should. Yeah, it worked earlier.
All right. Does anybody, and you can say no or shut up, Charlie, or get on to the next story, or we don't want to do this. We're here for the free stickers.
Is everything else a bridge?
No.
Okay.
We're done with bridges. That's a bridge too far.
Then I'm going to dive in with one more comment on this.
Okay.
Don't jump off the bridge. I will not. One of my other favorite genres is bridge weirdness.
Yeah.
And I feel like that goes to like my favorite thing, which is liminal spaces. The idea that a bridge is both a solid surface and
both
sort of
here and there.
It's both land, but it's in the air. And I feel like there's something that activates in our subconscious about that stuff. I think anybody who's ever driven over a really long bridge has had a lot of intrusive thoughts happen, or at least I have. And that kind of stuff really works its way into local folklore. I'm done.
No, that was good.
Excellent.
That was great.
Thank you.
So we have shared fun satanic panic experiences. Would anyone like to shout out something they were told that's completely innocuous that was evil?
Sure.
Yeah. Share.
I went to junior high school in Charlotte, and down the street from our junior high school was the Devil's Church.
There's always a devil thing or a Satan's thing, or it's always just like, how evil can we make it sound?
So we were, I was 14, no good, up late with the boys, and we were out there doing various things, and so we decided to look for the Devil's Church. So we climbed the fence, and what we found was they were just headstones. Mm-hmm. It was remains of an old church, and they had sayings on them that were "Oh, to the Lord," and clearly not the Devil's Church.
Right.
But so recently, I've Googled Earth and wonder whatever happened to that area, because everything got built up and whatever. And it turns out that there's now a different school built right on top of that where that Devil's Church had been. I don't even know if any of the kids in that area know that whole.
Oh, they're going to find out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hello Junior High School.
Oh, man, this is the way awesome legends get started. All right, who wants to fabricate some lore?
Right? I feel like
that's amazing.
I feel like we are one charred, counterfeited note away from changing the lives of a bunch of young people.
Arcane Carolinas is for the children.
Yes. That's fantastic.
No, that's awesome.
I love that.
We'll do some more sharing if people want to share. But there's a second legend.
Okay.
And I'm going to take us down to Spartanburg, South Carolina on this one. The home of where some people believe is a vortex of evil, a direct portal known as Hell's Gate Cemetery.
Ooh.
Or Oakwood, if you're trying to buy a plot and bury your family.
In my head, in the office, they have two brochures. One of them is Oakwood. One of them is Hell's, kind of got to suss them out.
Y'all here
in the
for the ghost
lot.
walk, or you want to see our plot pricing? We've got lovely family packages for both.
Yeah.
And we've talked at length in other episodes that we've recorded about places that are, for lack of a better word, unsettling to be in.
Oh, yeah.
Like places where you just feel that something is off. Like maybe the veil between what we can perceive and things that we don't fully understand, the unexplained, is a little thinner. I think that's actually the exact way you put it in one of our episodes.
Yes. Yeah. I'm obviously
plagiarizing right now. But.
No, that's okay. But I've talked a lot about the fact that between the two of us, I'm probably more the believer.
Yeah.
And I am a very eager believer. But I absolutely have been in places where it was clear that there was more concentrated spiritual power.
And we've also talked about what could, and again, this is all the unexplained, right? Michael and I, if this is your first time seeing us, we will never claim to have the secret sauce. Okay, we're not going to be like, we understand everything and we hold the secret truth of the universe and we can tell you exactly what ghosts are. That's not us.
Yeah, I'm happy to tell people what I think, but I am not interested in telling anybody else what they should think.
But we've discussed our opinions on what might make these types of places more, I'll just say haunted, than say a Burger King, right?
Depends on the Burger King.
Right. But we've talked about how like circumstances can feed into a location.
Yeah, there's something called stone tape theory
Yes.
that I'm a big fan of. The idea that significant enough emotional trauma can soak into the physical matter of a place.
And Hell's Gate is, by all accounts, one of those places in a very bad way.
Sure.
The legend goes that it was originally a potter's field. So bodies that weren't claimed, orphans, criminals that were executed, stuff like that.
A lot of unfinished business.
A lot of unfinished business. And the cemetery was expanded to make room for 100 plus other sets of remains. When development of a graveyard, they didn't build over it like your school. They exhumed the bodies and moved them all. So now you've got all these lost souls with disturbed remains piled on top.
You get all kinds of good reasons for some dead person to be very unhappy.
Well, this section is generally what is referred to as the old cemetery, with the newer and more organized section being the place that your nicer brochure would go.
Okay.
So they actually have two distinct parts of this one facility. Is it a facility?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. It's a facility.
What a space.
A space of this space. There's two distinct sections of this space. There's the old cemetery, where it's a whole mess of stuff and it goes into the woods, to your point of old gravestones being disregarded in the woods and stuff like that. And then you've got the newer one where they'll sell you a place to put an urn. I am really macabre. This is Fear Fest. It's fine. So allegedly, floating lights and orbs can be seen throughout both sections, but it's when you get closer to the old section that you get that overwhelming sense of dread. Some people report feeling nauseous when they enter this area. Some people have said that they've had like physical reactions in that place.
I'd believe it.
One guy posts a YouTube video. I can only find one source on this, and it was a guy's YouTube video about a weeping angel statue.
Ooh.
Yeah, really cemetery lore to the extreme, dialed up to 11.
Yeah.
Haunted cemetery. And it's just said to be a vortex of negative energy through which the forces of evil directly can interact with mankind from the other side of existence. And it's a place where satanic rituals are practiced intermittently. They don't have a schedule, but it happens. It's not like Fridays at 11:30.
It's not dependable.
Yeah, it's intermittent.
Yeah, intermittent. Is now a good time for another what if?
Yeah, because I'll get to the history next.
Okay, so if I were going to use that in a story, then I would definitely have it be like haunted as hell.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like an awful place.
Yeah, but it would be like ghosts who don't just want to get out. They want people to come in to it. Because like all of that is an attractor. It's a magnet.
Yeah.
Meant to draw in the living so that they can feed off of them.
I like that a lot. You're creepy.
In fact, it might even be vampires living in that cemetery who have faked a haunting to get people to go there so that they can jump them.
I'm just picturing Nosferatu with like a stick with like a sheet on it. And ooh.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm digging on that. I'm going to keep that.
I want you to come in. Oh, we don't talk. Wave the ghost. Say ooh. Oh, look, here comes another person with a ZMF detector. Ah! Light him.
In one of my books, a vampire lets himself get kidnapped by Satanists because he knows it's going to be really funny when they stab him with the ritual dagger and he doesn't die. Exactly. Yep.
No, I'm fine. So the history. This location is actually unique when it comes to the legend because you can tell I'm being serious now. With the exception of the Weeping Angel headstone, there's a lot of truth to it and multiple subjective accounts.
Really?
And some objective accounts. The city of Spartanburg actively confirms the historic element.
Okay.
Like,
wow.
It was a potter's field. They did move remains into it. That happened. the subjective experience of people feeling dread and getting ill. Multiple people report this, and that is what it is. But then where it starts to get a little crazy, and I am very skeptical about pictures of orbs. If you come to me with a picture of an orb, I will be nice to you and say, yeah, let me look at it.
Yeah, I'm a believer, but I'm not that much of a believer.
You know, we've had people show us some things in the past that I'm like, were you smoking? And they're like, well, yeah, why? I'm like, because that is cigarette smoke in your picture. You know, we're like, look at all these orbs. I'm like, you're in an attic. It's dust. Turn the flash off.
Yeah.
But there are some kind of weird ones, like moving, floating things.
Okay.
Like video and stuff.
Okay.
And, you know, that could be car headlights, that could a million things. But again, I'm treating this one as the totality of the circumstances, right? So that one's, it's okay. I'll take that as okay. Some people say they see things. Great. And there's, you know, the pictures are okay. But here's where I will go all in and say, this is a terrible place and you shouldn't go there. The ritualistic stuff is confirmed.
Oh. I mean, I grew up in a place where they said that there was a place up in the mountain where the Satanists went and did their thing, and that was clearly not true. It was people running moonshine. But, but I would never have expected you to say that, yeah, that's confirmed.
No. So it's not known exactly what the rituals are.
I was going to say.
It's not like they take notes. It's intermittent.
Okay.
It's legitimately intermittent. So in 2012... somebody dug up a grave, took the skull off of this person, used it for a couple of weeks, then brought it back.
I really want to know more about the process that led them to bring it back.
Well, they were done with it.
Or it was done with them.
The skull came back the very next day. I just picture it rolling along.
Do you have footage of that person bringing that skull back? Because for all I know, that skull finished that person off, and then it was like, time to get it back home.
Here's what's freaky. It happened again 4 years later on a different body.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They used up all the batteries on the first skull, so they had to go back.
Yeah, right. No, I was actually wondering.
They don't recharge like they used to, Michael.
I was assuming it would be the same skull because once you've stolen a skull and word gets around, then that skull becomes kind of a prize.
No, they went to a different one.
Oh.
And they dug up another person and stole a different skull. You can buy real skulls.
Yeah, but that doesn't.
You can buy them.
That doesn't have the home disinterred feel, you know.
Anyways, I think this place is probably a place that I don't want to be. I think it's legitimately probably a place where you could find yourself in some trouble.
Yeah, I wholesomely agree. I would not go there and hang out by myself. I would maybe not even go there and hang out with significant numbers of people, but that are people I know. But by the same token, I just really do have that sort of Ina Garten, like, if you can't dig up your own skull, store-bought is fine. But for real, though, that sounds like
It sounds like something ritualistic. Like, why would you steal just a skull? Like, they dug up the whole thing. They didn't take jewelry. They didn't take any other bones. They just took the noggin.
And skulls have, for literally tens of thousands of years, been an embodiment of the idea of the essence of the thing. Mm-hmm. The oldest cave art in the world is between 30 and 35,000 years old, and it's in these specific caves in France. And it's all very carefully preserved because the slightly newer cave art all got wiped out by people going and poking at it.
Tag X.
Yeah, Tag X. But the first thing in that cave is a bear skull that is pointed at the entrance so that when you walk in, that's what you see. Skulls have obviously been hugely important.
Glenn Danzig wants your skull.
Yes.
Thank you for the people that got that.
I have no idea what you're talking about. See, now we've exchanged failures to recognize pop culture.
We don't have to get all of each other's references.
No, exactly. It's all good. But obviously skulls are really important, and people in every culture
They need them.
Yes.
It's your head.
Like, people in every culture place importance on the skull.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Anyway, that's it on the notes. So we're just going to riff for a little bit. I would not go there.
I would not go there.
I think it's probably, I don't think that the devil traipses through betwixt the headstones, you know. So, but I think it's one of those places that probably has enough, I'm going to sound like such a hippie, negative vibes that I don't want to be there.
That sounds like a place that legitimately has had bad things happen there.
As opposed to Satan's Bridge, where kids probably drink beer under the bridge and spray paint.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You probably are happy to help spread the legend so that people will leave your beer drinking spot alone.
Absolutely you do.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
You go down there with a Coleman lantern and wave it. And
Yeah,
stuff
totally.
Like
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah. And if the local high school's colors just happen to be green and something, then all you need is one person with a cheerleading outfit, and you can establish a legend that will keep everybody out
Here,
for
carry
years.
this glow stick and,
Yeah, exactly.
walk down by the river.
But a back corner of a disturbed graveyard where ritual disinterment and theft of body parts has happened.
And people just get sick when they go there.
And people get sick when they go there. That's pretty, I don't know. That's got a lot of red flags.
All right, Arcane Carolinas, bringing the fun to Carolina Fear Fest.
I actually grew up not terribly far from Spartanburg.
I should have flipped those. I should have started with the downer and ended on the funny one.
Nah. This is by far the most detailed version of Hell's Gate Cemetery that I've ever heard. But I grew up not all that far from Spartanburg, and I had heard that there was a haunted cemetery in Spartanburg. And the version that I'd heard growing up as a teenager in the 80s was very much, this is a place where there are Satanists and bad stuff happens.
Well, it's funny because I shot him a message the other day. He was like, "Oh, you ready for the weekend?" And I was like, "No. I found a thing and it looks true, so I got to look into it." And that was the first one. And then the next day I was like, yeah, I found another thing, and it was like both of the bodies being dug up.
Yeah,
the skulls being dug up. I was just like, all right, well, I think 2's good.
You're gonna stop looking.
I'm gonna stop looking. I got 2.
It's interesting to me though, because in the 80s, the Satanic Panic is one of those things where it created enough hysteria that the hysteria inspired people to start inventing their own little Satanism stuff to do. And I'm not saying that that's true of everybody who describes themselves as a Satanist, but there are definitely people who heard the stories and said, I want to get in on that action. And growing up in Appalachia at the time, there was a wave of church desecrations and stuff like that in the place where I lived in 85, 86. And it was mostly the same kids, but there was a lot of people trying to dig up graves and finding out the graves are a lot deeper than you think and
We
stuff
should
like that.
invent something like really dumb, like super dumb, and say that it's an ancient tradition and see if we can get somebody to do it.
We would have to be very cautious with that.
Okay, well, yeah, it wouldn't have. You can't hurt anybody. You can't break anything. Be like, and the official snack is push pops of midnight grave desecrations. Local police report: grave robber, blah 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 blah, left behind 3 cherry push pops. Be like, ha ha! They listen to the show. They listen to the show.
That would be funny.
Yeah.
It might be
Arcane
worth.
Carolinas does not endorse grave robbing.
Yeah.
We are not sponsored by push pops. No skulls were harmed in the recording of this podcast. Anyway.
I'm thinking about it. I don't remember his name now. We used to record years for complicated reasons. At one point, we recorded in an actual sound studio. And
Oh, the glass booth.
and there was the skull.
Oh, what was his name?
We gave it Harrison.
Harrison, and he was a real skull.
Yeah, he was a real skull.
Yeah, so we recorded in a medical school's recording studio, and it was this glass cube.
Yeah.
And inside the medical school, for training for doctors, they had this recording studio, so they could go and be like, "This is how you perform a surgery on a femur," or whatever doctors do. I'm not a doctor. And as soon as we got in there, it was like kids in a candy store. They should not have sent us in there because there's a skull on the shelf, and I grab it and I'm like, "Purr!" like making the jaw work, and because it had little springs. The guy's like, "Can you put that back on the?" And I'm like, "This is fantastic! Look at all the toys they've given us."
The skull was on a book, and the book had been written by somebody named Harrison.
Yeah.
And so we were like, obviously, that's his name.
Thank you for sitting through us chuckling in front of you and sharing 2 stories about likely satanic panic influenced rumors, one of which seems pretty legit. And that's pretty much a good barometer for the show. Sometimes things seem pretty legit, and then, sometimes you're like, it's kids drinking beer and using spray paint.
The guy getting murdered in the car, though, that's oof.
Yeah, I think that's when it probably started.
Yeah.
I will share a favorite. I already shared 2 favorite, like, that's evil and, the devil's making you do it, stories. I will share a third one, which was...
Okay.
Clown, no.
That could not have been more perfectly timed.
And the story is that I hate that clown. Anyway, I was the same teacher.
Okay.
Same teacher that was like, Detective Comics, blah, was like, hit me with a book called, I think it was called Hell's Bells. And it was like, the dangers of rock and or roll. And I'm like,
I like that you're Futurama President Nixon.
I read it. I ate it up. And I thought it was awesome. It had the exact opposite effect. It was just like, and then they do this, and then they do that. And I really like music history and pop culture and rock history and stuff. And I'm reading it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know AC/DC did that. Oh, this is fascinating. Did you know Ozzy really did that? Oh, interesting. And like, all this stuff. And it was meant to scare me. And it didn't. It made me think, wow, these guys are pretty cool. Had the opposite effect. So anyway, if anybody else wants to talk about a funny story, that's cool. Yeah, hop on up.
Yeah.
I know that book.
You do?
So when I was a kid in the 80s, one of my friends in like the neighborhood, friend in air quotes,
Sure.
went to the Christian school down the road, and he was like, oh, that band Queen that you like so much, look in this book, Hell's Bells, that they're really homosexuals, they're trying to turn everyone homosexual. And I was like, good for them?
It's not really a secret.
No. I know the book. I'm like, oh my God.
That's
yes.
so funny.
Me,
That's awesome.
me as a teenager. And how do you spell that again? Taking notes.
But yeah, so that's it. We've got lots of free swag at the table. If you haven't gotten any, please stop by. I'm happy to give you some stickers, pins, koozies, whatever, just so you don't forget us. This is when
I'm trying to think of other times. It's not looking for a needle in a haystack. It's more like looking for a needle in a great big haystack-sized pile of needles. But other times that I was told that whatever I was doing was going to have me condemned eternally.
NutraSweet is of the devil.
I saw one of the things that I said last year at Arcane, one of my favorite things is that when I was a kid growing up, the Asheville Mall was like where everybody went. It was the mall that was anywhere for like an hour in any direction. And there were people who really honestly believed that it was run and controlled by Satanists, and that it was a giant like mousetrap for kids, and the kids just disappeared.
Like the game where like the
yes,
one thing
exactly. Yes,
and then the basket drops.
And the kid wanders into the Walden books, and the floor drops out, and then but like the idea was that it was just controlled by Satanists and used to attract children to it so that those children could be kidnapped. It's always the same stupid story that people have that they think is happening. But at any rate, even as a kid, I was like, that makes no sense. Everybody would notice if they took their kids to the Asheville Mall and their kids never came home, you know?
The kids are in the Mrs. Fields cookies. Mrs. Fields is people.
I was in the back of the Walden books every time we went to the mall. That was where the science fiction shelf was. Yeah. There wasn't, evil clowns with horns and Satan.
No, they're here at Carolina Fear Fest out there in the hall. And sorry if you like clowns.
I'm not.
Anyway, that's it. Thank you, Arcane Carolinas.
Yeah. Does anybody have questions?
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? You want to tell us we suck for debunking something?
Don't you think, I hate to bring it down too much, but don't you think we're in the rise of another satanic panic?
Absolutely. Oh gosh, I think we're smack in the middle. Right. I think that on that bell curve, we are just here in the cart, like start to,
thing, we've got all of it.
Totally.
Michael and I have talked that one of the reasons why we keep our show PG, I don't know, I might have been cussing on the mic today. Live, it slips out. But we keep it to be accessible and reach people and be a counter to that, because we want kids to think critically, and we know that some kids listen to our show in addition to adults, and we want them to be able to think critically about the historical context for what they're being told. Critical
thinking is our only hope at the moment, and I have no idea how to instill that in anyone other than to maybe engage in it a little bit in front of them.
But yeah, that is consciously one of the reasons. If we have an episode that has stuff that people might take offense with or might disturb a young person, we actually say it before the episode. We don't do true crime. We don't do like murder porn or anything like that. And if there is something that is, recent and terrible that feeds into local folklore, we'll even give a warning specifically so that we don't get sucked into that and have people be like, they're of the devil. They're like, no, we're not. I swear. No, listen, we're just trying to give you historical context and encourage critical thinking.
Also, with stuff that's too recent, it's very exploitative.
But to answer your question, yes, I do think we're witnessing the rise of another satanic panic.
Yeah. I actually think it never really ended.
You've been listening to Arcane Carolinas. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. For more episodes, behind-the-scenes information, and links to our social media, check out www.arcanecarolinas.com, where you can also buy the Arcane Carolinas book.
And if you like award-winning horror and science fiction, check out my books at michaelgwilliamsbooks.com or visit my publisher, Falstaff Books, at falstaffbooks.com. And if you have story suggestions, comments, or questions, email us at arcanecarolinas@gmail.com. And thanks for listening.